My first real job outside of washing dishes in a Greek restaurant was repairing computers. In fact, I worked at a small computer repair shop called Computer Solutions, and it was a dream job. I even got access to early release when I was a senior, so I could go into work and build computers. And essentially, back then, I was just removing viruses, spyware, all that kind of stuff. Essentially, people would be using software like Kazaa and all those. It's back in the day, if you can remember, if you're old like me. And then they would get viruses and they'd be like, please save my MP3s that I totally paid for. And anyway, at any rate, it was an excellent career for me. At a young age, I was able to earn a lot of money and pay for my first 3 years of college. And it provided me skills that I still use today. The right to repair is, in essence, described as follows. Have you ever gone to, for example, taken your car to a dealership, or as many of us know them, the stealership, to get repaired? And they would say, oh, it's going to be $1,500 to $3,000 to repair it. And then you say, forget that. And you go to some local Jim Bob's car repair and he fixes it for $200. That's you essentially flexing your right to repair. The way things have changed over the years is best described by a fellow YouTuber here. Let me show you.
Back in the 50s, 60s, and 70s, if you opened up some of your electronics or your appliances, there'd be schematics inside that show you exactly how everything was put together. And if there weren't, you'd often be able to contact the company and they'd simply send it over to you because they had no problem letting you know how the device that you purchased, that you owned, was put together so that you could service it. In the 1970s, if you purchased many of the personal computers back then, they came with thick books of schematics and diagrams and block diagrams that showed you how everything was put together. Fast forward to 2016. Not only am I not allowed to get them, but even authorized repair centers cannot get access to schematics and diagrams that show how many devices work, whether we're talking about the auto industry, the independent consumer electronics repair industry, tractor industry. You're not able to get access to schematics and diagrams that show how the device is put together.
Now that's a clip from Louis Rossmann, the YouTuber with over 1 million subscribers that has been truly championing right to repair. Essentially, what's happened over the years is companies like Apple, even Tesla, Samsung, they make these devices and they tell you, well, you couldn't possibly repair the thing that you've owned. You couldn't possibly do that. You've got to take it to an authorized retailer where they're going to just tell you, well, you've got to buy a whole new device, when in fact it might be as simple as a $5 or even $10 repair.
Basically, all the components that we need to replace is going to cost more than $1,000. So
to fix it entirely will cost more than $1,000?
Yeah, and then if we need to replace the display as well, that's another $780. But we're still looking at a total of around $1,200 there.
Wow.
When the actual problem is a bent pin in a screen cable. See the pin that's sticking out?
Okay.
So that pin is actually most likely the pin for the backlight. And as you can see, it's probably not making contact because it's bent outwards. And I got my set of tweezers over here, and I'm just going to try to push that back into the slot and try to get it back into its groove. All right. As you can see, we've got an apple, and we have a light.
So it fixed.
Yeah.
Or how about another perfect example of a tech support, a authorized tech support person spreading a clear and provable lie over the phone?
It's the dealership. It's the Apple authorized service providers that know so little about their devices that they will say straight-faced that the headphone jack is hard soldered onto the logic board and therefore can't be replaced.
Okay, so you're saying that on the iPhone 6 the headphone jack is hard soldered, it's soldered directly on the motherboard?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so it's not on a separate cable that then connects to the motherboard?
I don't believe so, no.
Huh.
A, it can be replaced if it's hard soldered, and B, it's not hard soldered. It's on a $5 flex cable that you would be able to tell if you had ever opened a damn iPhone. These are the people that Apple is authorizing.
And it's not just Apple or Samsung or whatever. It's quite honestly the entire industry. And what can we do about it? Well, you know, there used to be a time where you could get that great rush of fixing something. I've never been a mechanically inclined type of person. I feel super accomplished just changing the oil in my truck. But I could always fix computers, and there's still just an excellent rush of accomplishment when you're able to take something apart and fix it and make it work again and save yourself hundreds of dollars. But the industry has not only moved to actually remove our right to repair the devices that we've paid for, but they've actively hidden and made it impossible to actually get any of the schematics that used to be widely available. They won't give it to the customers because they want you to they don't even want you to repair it. They want you to just buy a new one. Buy a new one. Everyone just buy a new one. It's the same reason that they've tried to train consumers to buy a new cell phone every year. And they load it, in my opinion, with bloatware and things like that just slows the phone down over time gradually. We've seen this exposed with iPhones in the past. And a huge shout out, by the way, to Louis Rossmann. This is his channel. I'm going to leave it linked in the description of the video because he's really the main dude who's been championing this. And, what can you do? What can we do? Well, look, things are happening. This article published today. The EU plans to introduce sweeping right to repair legislation for electronics. It could significantly change the design of phones, tablets, and computers. As part of its newly announced Circular Economy Action Plan, the European Commission and the committee that drafts the EU's laws says it will introduce right to repair legislation that will push electronics manufacturers to create products that last longer, include as many recycled materials as possible, and are easier to reuse, repair, and recycle. This is pro-consumer. If the European Parliament were to pass legislation, it would extend its eco-design law to cover phones, tablets, and computers, and likely force tech companies to completely rethink the designs about their products. The legislation will also require those same companies to provide easy-to-access information related to the repairability and the durability of their products. At the moment, most consumers have to turn to websites like iFixit to find information on how to fix their devices. Single use will be restricted, premature obsolescence tackled, and the destruction of unsold durable goods banned. This is strong, and this is the kind of legislation that I can support. Look, I've cracked the screen on my phone before, and I've paid like $200 to have some kid at you break it, I fix it, replace it. I could have done this for $25 and an hour of my time. And it's also not just about the money for some people. I know it's easy to say time versus money. What is my time worth? But it's also about learning and about being comfortable working on the things that you own. And it's pushing back, by the way, against these corporations that want you to be scared. I've literally seen scare commercials. I think it was LG. If I can find it, I'll insert the clip.
Handling a bare cell places you at risk of severe injury.
Where they're basically saying, oh no, don't dare, don't replace batteries. You could be seriously harmed. Like, it's a literal scare tactic, trying to talk people out of fixing their own stuff. This is ridiculous. It's all deeply rooted in the hyper-consumerism. Just buy a new thing, just buy a new thing, just buy a new thing. And it's ridiculous. Look, if the schematics and the instructions are readily available and you still choose to buy new, 100% understand that. I've done it, and I would never look down on someone. But the fact of the matter is they are actively hiding these things. They are lobbying to prevent right to repair legislation from being passed. In fact, today I believe Louis Rossmann is at some sort of, he's testifying somewhere in Minnesota, I think, for right to repair. I strongly recommend checking out his most recent video. He also has repair.org, which is the one place where you can get involved. It says, it's even some great statistics. 86% of voters in Massachusetts overrode big car companies and passed the Automobile Owners' Right to Repair law in 2012. 114,000 Americans signed a petition to legalize cell phone unlocking. The White House and Congress responded by changing the law. 3 million people have joined open source repair groups like iFixit to learn how to fix their stuff because manufacturers won't help. Quotes, When you can't take something apart, you can't understand it. When it breaks, you can't fix it. When you want to do something more, you can't modify it. There are 20 right to repair bills in just 2019, and this website, repair.org, has which you should visit in a new window, not in this window. Tells you exactly how to reach out to your legislators, find out. Look, where right to repair bills are introduced. Here's one in Minnesota. There's not one in Wisconsin. That's something I'm going to actively pursue at this point now. And we need to put the power back in the hands of the people that own the products. This is absolutely ridiculous. Support right to repair. It's good for everyone. I hope you enjoyed this video. We'll talk to you again real soon.